can I explain this 3 stages of attention quickly?
Absolutely, yeah, it's your event.
So there's 3 stages of attention in my model. There's immediate attention, there's short attention, and there's long attention. I'm going to apologize for what I'm about to do. So the first stage is immediate attention. It's this immediate subconscious and automatic reaction we have to certain sights, sounds, and stimuli. It's the kind of reason why, for example, if someone has a gun, it takes a gun, shoots in the air, we pay attention, or if someone does this, you pay attention. You look beautiful with all that. I apologize for that because it makes a mess, but it gets my point across very clearly. There's an automatic reaction, and the reason you do this automatic reaction is because you have to protect yourself. It's a defense mechanism. Imagine if you had to think every time a car was coming towards you. We'd be a dead human species. But then you go to the second stage, which is when it becomes conscious. That is short attention. That's our short-term interest in something. That's when you're concentrating on a speaker or you're concentrating on a TV show or a movie or something else. And that's when you switch to the consciousness. And then the final stage is long attention. That's our long-term interest in something. That's when we start, not just listening to a Beyonce song on the radio, but we actually buy her entire collection or go to her concert. It's the difference between, buying your first Apple product and standing in line for the Apple Watch. And so what I talk about is walking through those 3 stages and the psychological and the brain mechanisms that actually control each of these stages and how they work. Now, when it comes to the actual triggers, different triggers capture attention at different stages. For example, a trigger that really focuses on immediate attention is one called automaticity. And that's our automatic reaction to certain sights, sounds, symbols, colors, especially colors. Like, for example, let's see if anyone gets this right. If you are a hitchhiker on the side of the road and you want to have the best chance of being picked up, what color shirt should you wear? Red, yellow, anyone else? Black, white? There's always someone who says no shirt, and I can tell exactly who that person is and what that person's about. You're going streaking later after a couple beers. I should have a award for them or something. The streaker's crown. So the answer is actually gender specific. If you're a man, most bright colors will work. Because yellows, oranges, reds, because of the contrast they have with, look at the road. What color is it? Dark brown, blacks, grays, greens, browns. Bright colors stand out against that. Now, if you're a woman, there was actually a French scientist who says, I'm going to go study this. And so he had women wear different colored shirts and tested this scientifically. And he found on average about, people would pull over about 13% of the time, unless they wore the color red, in which case it went to 23% of the time. And that's actually because of our subconscious associations with red and romanticism. In fact, if you just put, for anyone who uses Tinder here, if you put a thick red border around a person's face, the opposite gender will rate that person as more attractive than if it was not there. And these little subconscious cues really actually do capture attention. And so it's about the contrast something has and its associations. For example, Amazon, what color are their buy buttons? Yellow and orange, because they have high contrast with gray and white backgrounds. However, those 2 colors actually have the lowest correlation with competence. And so if someone walked in with a yellow or orange suit, think about it. You'd probably laugh your ass off. Make no sense at all. And that correlation sticks. It's actually part of the reason why the cover is the blue and teal, because blue has the highest correlation with competence. So that's one trigger. Another trigger that really matters is the disruption trigger. And that's when people pay attention to things that violate their expectations. And that's the sort of thing that happens when, with shock advertising or, I like example. If PK and I are sitting at a coffee shop and a giant clown comes and sits down next to us, we're going to pay attention, right? But the reason why is because we make another threat assessment tool. You'll find attention's a lot about threat assessment. We make a threat assessment of, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is this positive or negative? Maybe it's our friend who's going to visit a children's hospital. Or maybe it's a guy who's about to mug us. We don't know. It's out of place. We have to figure it out. And this comes from our hunter-gatherer backgrounds, because when we saw something out of place in past history, it was most likely going to be something like a saber-toothed tiger or potential food. And so those same mechanisms we still use, but we don't have saber-toothed tigers to worry about. So we apply it in different contexts. It's the reason why, like I said before, shock advertising and some of these other things really capture attention. Those are 2 I'll start with. I'm sure I'll talk about more throughout the day.
is automaticity and disruption,
Disruption.
right? And mm, how do you actually choose which trigger to use and in what situation? Can you give an example?
Well, the thing about the triggers is I kind of order them in terms of how of I order them in terms of like the stages you have to capture attention in. Like automaticity is great for short attention, while uh, while disruption is great. Automaticity for immediate attention, and disruption for short attention. And I talked a little bit about acknowledgement. That's a great tool for long attention. And so it kind of matters what kind of attention are you trying to grab and why. If you're trying to create a campaign, if you're getting a startup and you're just trying to get it out there, a disruption trigger can work really well. And the framing trigger, which is how you frame a message so that your audience is more receptive to it, really matters. But if you're trying to capture long-term attention, get people to come back to the table, then things like the acknowledgement trigger and the mystery trigger, which is that we pay attention to incomplete storylines and incomplete thoughts, and there's a lot of science behind that. We pay attention to that. So it really just kind of depends. What is your goal? A lot of times you're going to use multiple ones on the same campaign or same idea or whatever you're trying to get attention for.